Greetings, everybody. My name is Stephen. This is episode 316 of GI Joburg. And do not adjust your sets. We are coming to you live at the moment and talking about a vehicle. A vehicle focus that's not a pre-record. Well, if you are keeping score, you would know that we typically do these things behind the scenes and then put it out to the world. But this time, we happen to be doing it live. Not that that makes a difference if you were listening to this in the future, but just so you know, we might have some interesting comments. And let's field some comments, because this particular toy is something that, unlike the previous ones, might not be a hit for all, might be a bit contentious, might be a hidden gem that some people haven't really experienced. But here in GI Joburg, we like to unearth the rare gems and maybe just hold it up for the rest of the world to see. But I'm not alone. That was a very long-winded way of just saying the Locust is under review today, and we're going to have some fun with it. Joining me in the trenches of fun is Paul Lopesha. Hey, Paul.
Locust Lover 5000. How's it going?
We got a comment saying that you should get your Deadly Pencils moniker back on screen, because right now you just say Paul L. I assume that's from your Gundam streams.
Yeah, that, and also I was just worried that, I was just worried, man. I was like, is Deadly Pencils like...
The YouTube algorithm's going to come and shut us down for, like, promoting violence.
Yeah. Full unalive making pencils.
But it's not just a dialogue today. Well, it's more than a dialogue. It's a live stream interaction. But there's more than just two of us in the studio here at GI Joburg. We've got the wild and woolly Rob. Hello, Rob.
Oh, hello there. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, I guess. I mean, apparently it's very early for at least someone in our chats. Ronnie Trickshot decided to take the entire day off to watch us. Incredible.
To watch us.
Incredible. Yes.
Well, Ronnie's in Oz. I'm not sure if he's doing daylight savings or not, but like, you don't get much earlier than here. Oh, unless you're on the West Coast. Yeah. If Ronnie,
West Coast.
If he's West Coast, it's 4 a.m. Gross. But if he's here, it's 6, and if he's daylight savings, it's 7. So you have no excuse. I'm as sprightly as you get.
I thought it was really sweet that he decided to get up early. So is early is another person's late. So
wow. Okay, the chats are pumping. We've got Dale Stanford, Anything Joe's, GI Gary. We've got Mark van Leeuwen, Ewan Godfrey. There are some names that I don't recognize, so welcome. Indeed.
Yeah.
Moonlight 47's 4 a.m. for him. Well, there's a real trooper.
Emmanuel
it's always 4 a.m. somewhere.
Zantara, Darren Cobb,
Yeah.
And kicking the chats off, it was MC DJ ACDC, Mr. Alabama himself. Could he be any more enthusiastic? I don't think so. That's the kind of vibe we love here on GI Joburg. So, guys, the Locust. We're going to cut right into it and
it's the
talk a little bit
Valence
about...
port. Yeah.
Whoa.
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah,
very
cool.
Royalty up in here. And Cody Scalf. Okay, clearly the Locust is more popular than I initially let on.
Than we ever realized. My goodness. Wow.
The rules with our toy review podcasts are that each of us must actually own the toy. So far, we've been able to stick to that cardinal rule.
It's worked out.
Most recently, Rob has received a Locust. Do you want to give us some opening remarks, being the first one of us to encounter this toy?
Well, I'm very much the first person out of all three of us to ever encounter a Locust. I think it's quite cool. I think it's awesome. It was quite a fun experience. So when Stephen was here, before he left me a mystery box for my birthday, which was about a week ago. So I hid it in the back of our shop because I was like, "Oh, I don't want to open it early, spoil the surprise." And then about 2 weeks, actually no, a week before my birthday, I suddenly remembered, wait a minute, there's a box for me. I completely forgot that he left me a gift. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? So I looked through the store and I finally found it. I took it home and...
Finally? How long did it take?
Okay, well, it took me 2 minutes. I mean, I could see where it was. I didn't hide it that well. It wasn't meant to be, like, unfindable. So at midnight on, the day of my birthday, whatever time it is for Stephen video calls me. He's like, hey, it's your birthday. I'm the first. Where's the toy? You better open it in front of me because I want to know if you like it or not. Without wasting money, you bastards.
Yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
have to do it now. Rob, I don't want to see your live reaction to this toy that I bought you. It's fine. You don't have to do it now. Elliot
Okay.
really was looking forward to this. Anyway, it's
Getting to the
cool.
Locust, though.
I think it's fun. It's a fun
Yeah.
little toy. I think it makes more sense to me than that other one that has no windows, the eagle shooter.
Skyhawk?
Yeah, that one. I think it makes more sense to me. I mean, I think the
Eagle
Skyhawk shape wise, I think it makes more sense as a flying thing. But this thing, like as a full together package, it feels like something from the future. And the colors are fantastic too. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. The blue canopy, it's got a little bit of little things it does as well. It's not fully like, just like, oh, there's a tiny little toy. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so
For
it's
its
got
size,
features.
it's packed with features. Absolutely.
It's packed. Fully
Right,
packed.
guys. To kick things off the right way, I think we best talk about this thing's appearances in media first. I think the most logical point of departure would be the fact that it was in its own cartoon, not cartoon, was in its own
cartoon.
commercial.
Whoa!
Yes. Yeah, it's dedicated cartoon. For this one.
Locust. Such
It was featured alongside the Cobra Piranha attack boat, and lo and behold, who's in the cockpit?
Keeping good company.
Not Ripcord. It's 1990s. One of many paratroopers. It's free fall. It's free fall.
Wow.
They pop him in the cockpit, slap
Best
that
pilot for
cockpit
that
closed, and my goodness, these old commercial pulls that I got from YouTube, they are very potato. Like you can barely make out the toy when it's in a still.
Potato, Rorschach.
Man. Yeah.
Oh, is that law?
That is
On
not
the
law.
side?
On the skids, we've got topside. It seems he's been slightly demoted because the box art, if you looked at the thumbnail for this episode, has him in the cockpit. Now he's riding the skids with the gun. They show off the bomb dropping feature very nicely in the actual cartoon, or not cartoon. No, they don't animate it. It's live action. So someone's actually like holding the helicopter and flipping the bomb door open with one hand. Not an easy thing to do. And they do have, and this is why I keep saying cartoon, they animate it very briefly, and we can see on this sort of the dark side of the moon, the other side of the helicopter, it's Gridiron riding the skids. And it flies off to wreak havoc on Piranha below. Then, let's talk a little bit about the comic book appearances. I think, to my mind, its first appearance is in issue 205, an issue called Hidden Aces, where Wild Bill flies this bad boy in a very fierce action sequence against a column of demons and razorbacks. No, sorry, one demon piloted by Darklon and a bunch of razorbacks. He goes in guns blazing. He's assisting trying to extract a joint team of October Guard and GI Joe members in Sierra Gordo. He lays waste to, I think, 2 paralyzers.
Whoa.
Yep. With
That's impressive.
bombs and then missiles. He's about to get busy with the gun, but then he gets scragged by a razorback cannon, and his stricken helicopter hits the dirt with a big crump.
Oh.
Hope he survived.
So its first appearance was a very brief one, but as I think one of the Joes call out to the October Guard members, not bad. One lightly armed helicopter versus 2 tanks that it was able to take out. That's a fair trade. So the commercial has freefall in the cockpit. The comic book definitely made this Wild Bill's ride.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. Because we see in later issues, when the sort of benzene war kicks off, Wild Bill is once again assigned to piloting the Locust in a sort of a joint strike. We've got a flight of a Tomahawk, a Mud Fighter, and a Locust. The guy on art chores for this particular issue number 111, was a guy called John Statima, and what I noticed most prominently is the fact that, like, yeah, sure, the Locust is this little bubble, this jelly bean, but he tends to illustrate the Tomahawk also very rounded off.
Very bubbly. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes them kind of look like they have a similar design lineage.
And the Mud Fighter as well has kind of got like a thing to
Very
it too.
rounded. The mission is to basically drop off a team of GI Joe ninjas, and sort of create a diversion, a smokescreen for them. So it's an airstrike that the Mud Fighter and the Locust are orchestrating, and in the midst of all the confusion, the ninjas make their descent. But once again, as I say, it's Lift Ticket in the Tomahawk and Wild Bill in the Locust.
Which is super cool.
Very cool.
I didn't realize it got comic
Takes
representation.
time. It's brief. Blink and you miss it. Wild Bill very quickly rotates back to the primary whirlybird of the G.I. Joe team, that being the Tomahawk helicopter. But it did get worked in while the toy was still fresh.
Cool.
Very cool, very cool. I mean, the helicopter stable at this period in G.I. Joe history, particularly if you've got all the earlier ones like Tomahawk and Dragonfly in the mix, as the comic book liked to do, it becomes pretty crowded. It's difficult for the Locust to find its own place. And this is no more acute than in the cartoon series. We're talking the Deke animated series at this point. I think, if my very brief research serves me right, and if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments, its first appearance was in episode 11 of the Deke animated series called Night of the Creepers. Written by Rick Merwin. We actually open with an action sequence featuring the
Blue Thunder.
Brown Thunder. We've got a flight of 2 Locusts and a Sky Patrol Skyhawk, and they're pursuing a flight of Cobra Hurricane VTOLs. How they're keeping up with the jet, well, that's cartoon logic for you. And there's an epic sort of aerial dogfight fight that happens. Anyone want to venture a guess as to who are in the cockpits of the Locusts?
Ooh. Wild Bill.
Nice.
Gridiron.
Gridiron.
Probably.
Good.
Gridiron. That's a good choice.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, very timely to the Deke animated series sort of core cast. But you'll be delighted to know, Rob, particularly, that we've got Lowlight
Snake Eyes.
version 2 in the one
Ooh.
cockpit.
Oh, that's great. Good choice. Yeah.
And Scoop.
Oh,
flying the second.
Hey.
There you go.
That's the
There's
way
your
it
boy.
should be.
As
Oh.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Very cool.
So across all media, it seems to be, just as you would expect from a vehicle that came with no intended pilot, it has got a smorgasbord of pilots that use it.
Yeah,
But-
multiple choices.
The Deke series seemed to settle on good old lowlights more often than not. I was watching another episode. I think it was... I can't even find the name of it. I mean, I was just randomly trawling YouTube, and who should be behind the stick but Lowlight V2 once again.
Interesting. So they used it more of like specific characters would fly it rather than like with the Sky Striker where basically anyone can fly the vehicle.
Anyone could fly it. It was a general use helicopter, but I was just looking for patterns, and it makes me very happy to see a pattern emerge, and that pattern definitely did favor, as I say, Lowlight V2 or it's V3. Sorry, if you count as Slaughter's Marauders version. So 1991's Lowlight is seen doing some pretty hectic maneuvers, avoiding ground fire, supporting a GI Joe hammer.
They did not get a good model sheet for this cartoon. Oh my word.
No, the animation is
like
very
cock.
simplified. But Paul,
Yes.
here's the thing, and I'm going to credit Joel from Order of Battle Pod, who
Yeah.
I mean, to my mind, first dubbed this thing as like a jelly bean, but basically it is. It's this very rounded
Yeah.
off, short, stubby thing.
Oh, I agree, but like if you go like 3 or 4 shots back, it's just the back is just square and it looks ridiculous. And I don't know if that's just a like that looks bad, but not as bad as the other shot. I mean, there's another one after this, I think, and it just looks so terrible. It just looks like a box.
Well,
Like the cockpit slapped on a box. It looks really bad.
you must also remember that this is the Deke animation series. Even Sunbow's model sheets, it's unfair to take stills from an animated show, traditionally
Yeah,
animated
true.
show, because the models are varying, basically frame to frame, and sometimes this is what you got. But when you see it all, in animation, in motion, it somehow is forgivable. I see you've got your Sky Patrol. What's his name? Airwave. He's the leader.
Skydive.
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 Right.
Yeah.
Well, now you need a
Yeah.
Skyhawk to recreate that episode.
I do. Yeah, I actually do have one of those. I was actually curious as to who was in the Skyhawk.
Well, this is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. Like, it was a very crowded stable of helicopters because you had this little guy, but occupying this small helicopter sort of use, I guess, you've got battlecopters, which were more ubiquitous in the Deke cartoon. And then punching just above the weight class of the Locust, you've got the Retaliator, launched in the same year. Like, if you need to have like a passenger in the back, as often was the case, you'd use the Retaliator, so you could have dialogue between them, instead of having to animate a second helicopter and work that into the plot. And then, not to mention the fact that you still had the Sky Patrol vehicles also in the mix, so a Skyhawk would also probably just as easily fulfill the function of the Locust. So it found difficulty getting its own sort of time to shine, shall we say. I think I've pretty much discovered the major appearances of it. But there's one more that is just so delicious. I have to bring it up. In The Greatest Evil, Part 1. Now this is a cartoon that is infamous in GI Joe for one particular reason. It deals with drug abuse and its effects particularly on a GI Joe member. So Duke's shouting the odds. He's scrambling all the Locusts. This time it's the different deco, the deco that came with the general. Sort of green and yellow Locusts. They're scrambling. Who jumps in the cockpit? Who's our main man for this mission? It's Falcon.
Hey.
Falcon gets in the cockpit. He snarls so hard, like a hog, bro. He's in the cockpit, just filling both nostrils.
Insane on the cocaine.
He's mouthing off to Duke. He's riding into battle, and he unleashes a feature of the Locust that must have been cartoon only, because instead of bombing like any sort of ordnance, instead of dropping any ordnance out of the helicopter, like the front sort of lower windshield drops open and he flies out.
And he shrinks.
He launches himself out of the bottom of the Locust.
It's like cocaine!
And sends it on a collision course with a Cobra battlecopter. I think Skycreeper is flying it, unless I'm mistaken.
Not anymore.
Wow. I can't believe it.
I love drugs!
I know.
Don't do drugs,
Family!
kids.
No, don't.
So as I said, too delicious to not mention. But brings us to maybe the alternate deco, which I'm afraid none of us possess. Maybe we need to rectify that. But any thoughts on green and yellow Locusts?
Dude, I don't hate it. Like, I've always thought it was interesting, and I suppose we'll get more into this as we talk about the Locust itself. But I really love the Locust's core color scheme. I think it's such a good-looking vehicle, and to make it yellow and green, I feel takes something away from it. But then again, it does kind of tie it into the general better, with its color scheme. I kind of wish the general was colored more like the Locust in some respects, which it kind of is. But yeah.
Well, I think it's quite cool. I mean, it's a nice variation. I think Dubia J mentioned earlier. It's weird that then we never got a Sky Patrol Locust. I think that would be pretty sick. Imagine this thing in
I
silver.
also, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I love the color of the Retaliator as well, and I feel like the Locust and the Retaliator, like I feel like GI Joe got a very cool uniform look for vehicles, well, a good color palette for that vehicle, and then they didn't really like extend it much after that. They just went crazy again, and not necessarily crazy in the best ways. Also, Steve, I don't know why we as South Africans don't own the general version of the Locust, because those are Springbok colors, bro.
You
Gold, my
see,
brew. Your
Yeah.
that'd actually be the perfect version for us to have.
We wanted everything. Anyway, there's one little like very obscure and arbitrary like kind of media representation of this vehicle. It's not actually of this vehicle. It's of a vehicle that yeah, I'm gonna show you guys on the screen now. It's much easier to explain it. It's an old video game. It's on the TurboGrafx 16, or as I know it, the PC Engine, the Super CD. It's called Mr. Heli. It's part of the it's IRAM, so it's part of the like R-Type family. R-Type family of things. And it's a little helicopter with little legs and little arms, and it's very cute and very bubbly. And I've also gonna show you some cool video game footage. So it's a side-scrolling shooter, but not in the traditional sense, because you can go up, down, left, right. I don't want to call it Metroidvania-esque, but anyway, this vehicle, this is a game I played a lot of when I also encountered this vehicle the first time in my life, and I do want to go into more of that. But I think this game helped a lot for me to like this vehicle. Not that I have any dislike for the Locust, but there's something about this game that kind of informed my play patterns. And maybe I've given a few people a nostalgia hit as well with those images.
I had never encountered that, but
Yeah. But from
it's
certain angles, it looks similar for sure.
It slaps arms on the side of the helicopter. That's fun.
Yeah, and little legs. You can go on the ground, and it's very cool.
A little mecha.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
cutesy. Oh yeah.
And it's an unlockable in R-Type final as well, so that's cool. I mean, if
I
anybody
think
out there
another
that plays R-Type.
advantage of the vehicle is it's so small that you can actually own multiple. So I mean, there's no reason for us not to get the Springbok colored one. I mean, I see some people actually do own a couple of their own versions. Mark apparently owns 2 brown and 1 brown and 2 customs. Even made an Arctic one.
Made an Arctic one and slapped Cobra stickers on it. We saw that in a reading of his book, Rob.
Yes, that's
But
right.
then
actually,
the
we
other
did.
one, if memory serves, I think he's swapped the accent parts. So you've got a green General Tomahawk, but with silver guns and rotors and landing skids. If
That
memory
could be
serves.
cool.
Feel free to correct me in the comments there, Mark. This is what's fun about having you guys on board for a vehicle focus.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, everyone
Correct
has
us
different
live.
versions on display. Now let's flick to, as always, we love to share Carson's exceptional work on 3D Joes. It's got everything you could possibly want to see in one convenient place. The box art, as we see,
Not sponsored.
but I mean, we happily sponsor him with whatever shine we can share.
Hell yeah.
The Locust is a bomb-dropping assault copter. We've got topside in the cockpit, which is an interesting choice. I mean, nowhere in his file card or specialization or in his backstory does it say anything about flying helicopters. But hey, in the true spirit of anyone being able to get into one of these whirly birds, why not pick the Navy man who's a brawler, and not much else really. I don't know. What are Topside's claims to fame? If you're a Topside fan, sing his praises.
Well, he has an orange vest.
He has an orange vest.
That is pretty cool.
He
There we
has
go.
yellow eyes. His yellow beard.
He's Raiden.
box-
Lord Raiden.
The box back blurb says that with Cobra advancing on all fronts, General Hawk orders the Locust to smash their lead assault vehicles and stop them in their tracks. It does one of my least favorite things by tacking Hawk's rank onto his codename. Ugh.
How very dare they? The 90s.
It's Hawk. he's always going to be Hawk, because once upon a time, guess what? He wasn't a general, but he was still Hawk. Anyway, whatevs. The box back is all very fine and well in terms of calling out features. The blueprints are all very fine and well as well, but they are shown up by an initiative that happened in the comic books, which I'd like to call attention to, and that's once upon a time, at least they started in issue 111 of GI Joe, yeah, era. They started doing vehicle dossiers, which is awesome. Did you guys ever see any of these things? I'll try and bring it up.
One or two here and there.
Yeah, I
They
feel like
weren't-
I've seen one or two before. Maybe the bug or the... Maybe the
Moonlight
bug.
asked, can the Locust fit a modern era figure? Yes, it can.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's using a seat clip feature, and so it's not a back plug, so anything can really clip in there. Room for feet might be a problem with taller modern era figures with longer legs, but I'm sure you'll find some that fit like a glove. Maybe
Don't
even
put
better than
gung ho
that.
in there. Yeah.
All right, so the very first vehicle featured in this vehicle dossier was in fact the Locust in issue 111. Oh no, sorry, issue 108. 108. It's got Snake Eyes on the cover with a knife to Cobra Commander's throat. And this gives us a lot of great information on the Locust. It says that the Locust is a light scout and ground support helicopter with limited stealth capability. Whoa. It is small enough to be transported by a C-130 Hercules and still leave room for a Hammer and a Desert Fox, but versatile enough to perform a variety of combat and support missions. And then it goes into the various points, calling out features on the helicopter itself. My favorite of them is that it has FLIR, sort of forward-looking infrared, optics, EO, and laser, all located in the nose. Not at all represented by any sculpting feature on the toy itself, but it seems to have a lot of optics, a lot of scanning gear, a lot of, good tech.
I think they didn't realize there was a window down there.
Towards the rear of the helicopter, where you've got that squared off section, which kind of looks unfinished, if I'm to be critical. We'll get into our critiques later, but that is a chaff flare dispenser, which is awesome because, why wouldn't you?
It
If
needs
you're
it.
encountering any kind of ground fire, presumably you have enough time to dispense some chaff and flares to throw off the guidance systems. All the communication gear, the VHF, UHF, and TACAN aerials are actually in the landing skids. That's pretty unique. I don't know if you'd want to put sensitive aerials in a landing skid, but since this thing doesn't really have any other sculpt feature for aerials, I guess it was the logical choice. Someone was like, how does this thing communicate? Where are the aerials? Where are the antennas?
I wonder if
like,
there's a
I've just-
precedent for that.
Well, look, the Black Hawk has these sort of like, they look like handles, but you mustn't treat them as such, protruding from the sides, and those are the antenna. So that's perhaps the precedent that they were pulling from. It's like, this helicopter has like stuff sticking out of the side. It's not a traditional like whip antenna, because that would be illogical on a helicopter, unless I suppose you've got stubby ones on the tail boom sometimes. Anyways, I'm rambling. Can you see? I love this technical stuff, guys. Not that I'm a technically minded guy, but like this immersion into what is just a plastic toy is what really just elevates GI Joe above everything else. The helicopter blade is made of a composite material. That's probably speaking to the stealth features that they allude to in the blurb. However, the helicopter itself doesn't look stealthy. I mean, a stealth helicopter would have the look of the Comanche, which is the sort of the stealth helicopter that never really
It would
went
have
into production.
Angles to repel radar. Yeah. To break radar.
But with the composite blade, at least you are, because helicopters are notoriously easy to spot on radar because of the spinning blade. but a
Maybe by
composite blade
stealth they
cuts down.
basically mean it. It's so small it can really fly so low and into spaces that other helicopters wouldn't be able to. So it can
Oh, we're going to
approach
get
it
into that.
from certain
The
angles.
Locust itself is probably the most maneuverable little helicopter you're likely to see ever, Fang notwithstanding. But what really intrigues me is we get into the bottom section, and they talk about its various stats. The fact that it has a max speed of 180 miles per hour. Kind of wish that was in knots, but anyway. If you're not Imperial and you want to do a little quick calculation, I think that's about...
That's so cute.
240
General monopolies.
kilometers.
Sorry. For the engine, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. It's got a 2-hour endurance with its maximum load. That's pretty good for a helicopter of its size. In fact, it's bloody good. And then they talk about its cone of fire, which is something that I found bizarre as a child. I'm like, can the cannons move left, right? But now that I know a little bit more about using guns on a helicopter or on an A-10, they're not pinpoint sniper weapons. They are area weapons. You're firing to cover a kind of a region of fire. It sort of spreads out as it hits its target in order to engage a wider range of area. So it seems like the arrangement of these guns is to kind of hit the ground in a T formation. I don't know. Try and make sense of it if you can, and let me know in the comments. But I don't think it's referring to how the gun can be maneuvered. Though it does also make mention of the fact that the pilot can either control the guns manually or use his helmet, just like a longbow
line of
Apache.
sight targeting. Yeah.
Yeah. The target
Can
using the helmet.
Recently, very recently, at least at the time of recording, a very cool movie has come out. We don't want to talk about too many details, but Dune Part 2 came out, and it has ornithopters in it. This vehicle kind of reminds me a bit of the ornithopter. But anyway, there's a small scene where the ornithopter is actually shooting at a ground target, and if you look carefully, the bullets do go in a kind of a spray pattern. And that's the most recent memory I have of seeing that in action in a film. So I think that's a good way to kind of understand how these guns would work.
Which is deadly effective on ground targets because of that spread.
Yeah.
You're instantaneously raining a large area of fire down, which can be handily defeated by characters that have plot armor and are able to kind of just dive roll. Just dive roll and they're fine.
Roll!
What else can I tell you about this great little nugget of GI Joe media other than I love the fact that it goes into such suspension of disbelief. However, I'm going to say that on the longbow Apache you've got a dedicated gunner for the chin gun, because helicopter flying, both hands and both feet are constantly engaged in the flying of the craft. So to then add positionable guns into the mix, that is one stressful thing to fly, especially if you're entrusting it to guys like Topside. I mean, anybody can fly Locust.
Is there any
that's the whole
conflict
thing,
between the comic book stats and the blueprints? Or do they line up pretty?
Ooh, you know what? That's a very good point. The blueprints, and I didn't really get into them, but we can pass
glossed
our
over
eyes
them.
Just to be comprehensive. Let's. Oh, did I make 3D Joes go away? I totally did.
Apparently you didn't.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll bring it up.
Even broke 3D
Paul,
Joes. Oh my word. Yes, me.
The figure 6-pack mentioned that the helicopter that you showed earlier looks more like Parodius from Konami.
Yeah, he's referring to the game Parodius, which is the parody version of Gradius, which is like you said, made by like they said, made by Konami. This was made by IREM, which was when it comes to the shooter scene, a rival to Konami, because IREM made R-Type, the very popular and awesome R-Type games, which was my history could be wrong here, but it was made in response to Gradius. Anyway, but this game kind of plays like a semi-platformer and flying game. So you've got the flying, but then you can land on the ground and do the little platform
Oh, yeah,
elements.
because it
and
has
you have little bombs. Like Mr. Heli has little bombs, and he's also got a forward-firing projectile, much like the Locust. Like, I keep wondering, like, maybe if we put legs and arms on the Locust, we could pretty much have a Mr. Heli custom. And I'm pretty sure there's some guy in Japan who's done that, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so far, I mean, I can see there is agreement on that the missiles on the back are air-to-air missiles. Which is weird also because the missiles
They're also the
are
bombs.
actually also the bombs. They've designed them to be exactly
They're
the
the
same. So
bomb.
I don't know. They're air-to-air bombs. That's a bit weird. But yeah, kind of looking at it, it does seem like from the little information we get here, it is kind of, they've either expanded on it or they've kind of provided their own information that kind of supports what's going on here.
No talk of its stealth capability, no talk of the cone of fire or the stats like its range or its carrying capacity. So in this instance, the blueprints are a little bit anemic. The Marvel comic got way more detailed, and as I say, I wish it was a feature that they kept up. I personally, as a child, really latched onto the fact that it mentions up front that this thing can go inside a C-130 Hercules and still leave room for a Hammer, which is GI Joe's Humvee, and a Desert Fox, which is the 6-wheel drive vehicle from 1988. And that, as a child, made me aware of the fact that, cargo aircraft have limited capacities, and if you're going on a mission, you've got to be selective. If you're going to take 2 Jeeps and you need some air support, like the Locust is the one. Like, that's essential. I'd love to see that arrangement inside a C-130. I imagine, like, because the Desert Fox has, like, a sloped front, it would park right in behind the Locust's back. So kind of it would marry the 2 angles. And then the Hammer, which is a very squared-off vehicle, on the rear. But yeah, the blueprints are pretty skint. In the
now that we've got all of the technical stuff out of the way, I feel like we have to get to how do you play with this toy?
And the question has come up in the chats once again, so let's address it. Who would be the pilot, says Yojo. And I'm going to say that because I don't have a general, my go-to guy, because the colors are just too sweet, is the general's included commander, Major Storm. He looks bloody good in there. And what made me want to use him more than anything is the fact that he's got the single optic helmet, very much like the longbow Apache. And if you do take it to be an aiming device for the guns, well, then that just makes even more sense. So where he looks, the guns look.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's probably also why it looks so cool to have low light in it. Kind of with his helmet. I mean, either he kind of looks like a pilot. I think someone mentioned earlier, like, is that part of why maybe they put him in there?
Or he looks like Cyclops, who is a pilot.
Yeah, who is a pilot.
Perfect.
Yeah, so maybe that's where it comes from. They're like, oh, she's a pilot. If that's, that's what
June!
that does.
It's 90s coding. You've got Cyclops in the Blackbird, and you've got Lowlights in the Jelly Bean of Death.
And the Locust and the Jelly Bean. For my go-to was always Freefall. Because he was the most pilot-looking figure we had in our collection, other than actually Skydive, which was the only Sky Patrol I had my hands on until I got Static Line. And then Static Line would go on to be the pilot of the Locust for a long time. So those were always my guys. So it was always like actually, I don't love Skydive as a pilot for it, to be quite honest. But Static Line and Freefall were my go-tos, always.
I believe
Freefall looks amazing. Yeah.
Darren Cobb mentioned he liked to have Flint fly his. Steven's kind of decided for me who should fly mine, because along with the Locust, Steven gave me one of the best versions of Wild Bull, which is the Confederacy version, or the.
Oh no, he's a Unionist, definitely.
The Unionist
in the blue.
Okay, absolutely fantastic. We found so many of these at the Para Toy Shop, which is the main kind of like second-hand toy shop that we got all our toys from.
Easily one of the most common figures you'll find in South Africa. Is that Wild
I'm
Bull.
pretty sure every single GI Joe fan in
The
South Africa has at
eyes
least
of a
one
ranger
of
are
these.
upon you.
And it would be the version with the white pants, because I believe there's a version with Black
Black
pants.
Yeah,
But I've
so
never
I
seen
haven't
that.
seen it.
South Africa got a glut of the white pants
Yeah.
second version of this figure,
Got flooded.
but most
Came with
people know him
tons of
as,
cool
as
stuff.
as having black pants.
Yeah.
Either way, he's a logical choice for pilots, and
Yeah. And
first
he kind of
version
matches
Wild
the color
Bill
scheme to a way as well.
and
I
the
think.
aesthetic, because he's kind of buff. He's 90s Wild Bill,
Yeah.
whereas
It's ready to go.
other Wild Bill might look a little bit too dated.
Yeah, so that's my
Wild
go-to.
Bill.
But then again, I've only owned mine for 2 weeks, so I mean,
And
I've
you've
loved
got
time to
perfect
discover,
license
you
to
know.
put Scoop in the cockpit as you
Oh, of course I
as
do.
you've discovered this fine evening.
Yo, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Maybe
It
there
makes
should be a character
perfect
called
sense.
Mild Bull. Mild Bull should be
Mild
the
Bull.
Mild Bull. He's not as like yeehaw as Wild Bull, but he's still
He's
still
not
there. He's
constantly
Mild Bull.
drunk in the cockpit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, bud?
On drugs.
Yeah, we got some great guys filling into the chats, perhaps a little bit late, but better late than never. We love you. We see you. Bart's here, and Zero Valen. Man, oh man, Mark's here. Ben's here.
We had Yojo coming in a bit early as well, and I believe there
Terry
was
Turner
also
as well was here.
Todd, I think.
Yeah.
Mm,
Was it a
lovely,
Todd?
lovely,
Was
lovely. A
Todd.
lot of love
Hell
being
yeah.
shown
Dantara,
for
that's
this.
a great suggestion. Drop zone. Drop zone would look super cool in a Locust. I actually, now that I have a drop zone, I'm going to try that.
Do it. Put him in
Coordinate.
there. Do it. Paul, come on.
My Locust is unfortunately in my folks' place still. I didn't get a chance to swing past and
Shocking.
grab it. So
Absolutely
I am
shocking.
Locust list on this episode. So guys, when did you encounter this vehicle? When is the first time you actually touched this toy? Rob, we know your story. The first time you touched
Aye.
this toy was like, no, I'm lying. Like, have you actually touched this toy before the one that you got?
I don't think so. I mean, Stephen, did you have yours in South Africa? I don't remember if
No.
you did. No,
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Picked this one up right here in Australia. It was a
Hell
beta, and I fixed it up. And so was yours, Rob, and so is Paul's actually.
Whoa.
There is a
Well-
problem with this helicopter, and that's
Oh, your
It,
vision or
with
in general?
all locusts.
All of them.
Typically, over time, the guns develop a droop because they are just a friction clip, basically. It's a mushroom clip that is kind of bowed, if that makes any sense. Anyways,
Yeah.
this is probably
Thing.
my proudest GI Joe toy fix of all, because it is absolute. I mean, you wouldn't know until I tell you, and I'm gonna tell you. Cut a little piece of O-ring rubber, stick it into those in between that sort of the mushroom clip, like there's a space for the plastic to bend. You stick that piece of rubber in there and then reinsert it, and all of a sudden you've got tension again because it's
Strong
pressing up
like
against
bull.
the rubber, and the rubber, the O-ring's in there so tight it's never going to drop into the body
Oh,
of the
yeah.
craft.
So that's how you
So-
made mine so tight, right?
Is it nice?
Stephen is not a
Yeah.
registered medical
Yeah, dude, these
professional
are
or
fantastic.
surgeon.
I
Please
did
use
it to
any
mine,
advice.
I did it to
with
Rob's.
discretion.
I'm not sure if I did it to yours, Paul.
It's pretty
I'll
good.
never
No,
know.
It's pretty good. They're
mine
pretty
mine
tight.
hasn't been done. My guns are still pretty good, actually.
But how do you know
all
that it
point.
hasn't been done?
Oh.
Because who
Because
bought
I'm
you that
sure-
locust?
Yeah, I know you did, but I think I know
Experimented
myself.
on
I
yours
think it
before
takes
he
stuff
did the
apart.
process on his.
Yeah, maybe he did test it out of mine. Although what I will say is that my Locust has an amazingly clean canopy.
Lovely.
That was always a standout feature of mine. But yeah, man, Locust, my first Locust. If you guys didn't, gather from earlier, David got a Locust from Canada, long ago, and I remember coming over to his house and being like, "Oh my god, this vehicle's amazing," and he actually gave me his, and like
Whoa, that's a
like
good
it's
friend.
one of those. Yeah, no, David just sometimes just did that. Like he was like, "Oh, you know what? Like he's not enjoying this thing as much or whatever," and he would give it to me. So he gave me this Locust, and it was awesome. It might have also, for all I know, have been a New Year's present or something. But because at the time I didn't know when Chinese New Year's and stuff was. But man, I'm so glad he gave me this toy, man, because the Locust and I went on many adventures as a kid. Like this was just such a great helicopter. And he of course had a Fang, and I had a Fang too as well. So these would often like kind of dog fights and stuff. It was great.
If
In
you
fact,
have an eye on realism, I can't divorce it nowadays. Like nowadays, you got to think of the way these things actually function. I was watching a documentary on Vietnam War era air cavalry guys. Guys who are flying the Iroquois, the Cobra, and then the little birds, the little AH-6s. And
the Iroquois, yeah.
the three helicopter types actually worked in concert on like seek and destroy missions because the little birds were down at like basically below treetop level. They were down in the grass. Those pilots were so shit hot. I mean, if you think the guys with the transport helicopters, the attack helicopters were the best of the best, like the guys in the little birds were madmen because they were like boots on the ground infantry, like looking for signs of passing, flattened grass, anything that looked like enemy had recently been in the area. Like they were literally eyes in the tree, like they were down there, and then they'd radio back to the attack helicopter, which was sort of on station a little bit higher, and the Cobra would come in and do the dirty work. But these guys, these Locusts, fulfill that function. They are down there with the infantrymen, extending range, as I say, looking for signs of passing, trying to eke out enemy forces. And in that sense, like this thing is very heavily armed for its purpose. It's not heavily armed for an attack helicopter, but like the fact that it's
grass
got
cutter.
all these guns up front gives it a lot of bite. Not to mention the fact that it's got ordnance. What do you guys think of the bomb drop feature?
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's quite fun. But obviously, it's just confusing that these air-to-air missiles become, air-to-ground bombs. They really should have just made them air-to-ground missiles. To kind of like solidify the purpose of what the Locust does. But it's interesting you mentioned that they that you found this kind of real world counterpart. I think Peter Moline mentioned earlier that the Locust always reminded him of the helicopters of MASH, which was set during Vietnam.
Big bubble canopy up front.
Yeah.
Though in the case of those helicopters, even more of a bubble. What was that? The H1. It was a Bell helicopter in any case, with that really skeletal tail boom. Guys, do you feel like maybe this thing in its earlier design history had more of a tail boom, and they were like, just chop it, because it suddenly ends very suddenly. And it would have a far more logical helicopter profile.
It would go back further with the brown parts, it kind of like stretch outwards, and this part would probably be around about here, at the edge of the rotor limits.
I also wonder if maybe
you want it to extend slightly beyond the rotor arc, so that there's no interference.
Well, to keep it small, and toyetic, you need to have it, not too far. It's a toy.
I also sometimes wonder if it was maybe like I wonder if it's like not meant to have been part of something bigger, like not something ridiculously sized, just like if maybe it was like a helicopter portion to like a tank or something. Like maybe they were conceptualizing that idea early on.
Like with the Avalanche.
There's also that. Yeah,
well, it is
like something like
that.
Off
the side, like boop.
It is the pack-in vehicle with the general, so you got that. What I'm interested in, was it always intended to be the general's pack-in vehicle, or was that a kind of a value enhancer that they decided at a later stage? It's like, we've got this vehicle, it's basically got a heliport on its top, but we don't include a helicopter. We got to do that.
Yeah, I also think, like this might insult a few, I don't know, this might be controversial, but the general, if you just look at it like at the back of the box, it's a pretty like boring looking vehicle, actually.
Ooh,
like unless everything's like open, it's a very flat looking vehicle. So I think having something like the Locust there to like, helps to sell it, definitely. Especially when you're like trying to convince your mom or your dad to buy this for you as a kid. You want to go, oh mom, like it's this very big expensive vehicle and it comes with this cool helicopter, and it comes with a figure. You gotta buy it for me, and it makes sounds. You know, like that was like everything here was designed to enhance the kid's sales pitch to the parents. So like there, it looks fascinating. It looks super interesting, but like you're in the toy store, so you turn it
By
around.
there, Paul means on screen right now.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Yeah, but I mean, this is actually a live stream on YouTube, so sorry, podcast listeners.
We see you. We love you. You're what made us.
Yeah. It's just like having all those extra things like just makes it look more value add. More. A kid looks at this and can see what the value is, but a parent looks at this and goes, "Well, it's a voice
that's
black
too
thing with
much.
wheels."
What does it do?
It's an airport. It doesn't come with any
Does it drive
airplanes.
I'm gonna step on those missiles and it's gonna hurt. Yeah. It's like I'm gonna
Well,
buy
talking
this
of-
so when my kid pisses me off, I can break it in front of them. Yeah, because I'm psychotic.
Evil.
Yeah, dude. Though, I mean, we all knew kids who had parents like that. So yeah.
Well, talking of packaging, I think my funniest detail of the packaging is the original Locust. It looks like it's actually being attacked by its own missiles because it's showing off the bomb dropping feature.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like at an angle and it's flying and it just looks like the missiles are coming right up at it on the packaging itself. And it's just like, okay, that was an interesting design choice. Good job, guys.
Yeah, except if you're really going to get into the weeds, they are. I mean, it's kind of like a ferret missile. Which way is the front? Because they've got points.
I think it's
both front and
they
back.
have points both front, but the point
For
is
me,
a lot
it's the
sharper on
pointy
front.
side, like the cartoon rabbit says. It's like a special
Rob,
cartoon.
you have just uncovered a great detail. I mean, yeah, they absolutely are illustrated, looking like they're flying
I mean,
into the
they've
Locust.
tried, obviously, but the action lines or the speed lines, I mean, they can be interpreted either way, actually. That's going up into it or it's being dropped by it.
I think what this clues me into, more than anything else, is that I've been inserting the bombs the wrong way around. They should fall out tail fin first.
Yeah.
So perhaps just like
as
a real bomb.
as bombs, they need to go backwards, but as missiles, they
Yes.
need to go forwards.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, that is perhaps the biggest strike against this thing. Just a slightly different bit of molding would have been great. I mean, maybe make the bombs even bigger, more rotund.
Well,
There's a
either
little bit
that
more
or
cavity to fill.
just change what the the purpose of the missiles at the top are. Air to ground. I think that solves everything really. It doesn't have to be two different. Special bomb recall functions, says Darren Cobb. Wow, the Locust
Darren's
does
like the Rob
everything.
of Australia. Anyway.
But I think that would solve that issue because I mean I like that it does drop them as bombs, but at least it solidifies the purpose of the Locust as kind of like an air to ground unit where it's more to harass ground vehicles and troops than it is to actually be some sort of anti aircraft like response thing. Like you send this up when you got like a rattler coming in and this thing's like no ways I'm going back.
Yeah, look, I think its clearest function is not necessarily an attack craft first and foremost. It is a reconnaissance vehicle.
Yeah, reconnaissance, absolutely. Which is also probably why you'll find like low light in it as well. I think it's a very good choice.
Yeah.
know.
Rangers lead the way.
Guys, favorite features on the
Paul.
Locust?
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa! My
I've
favorite
always loved the
feature is
fact that it's got. Please continue, Rob.
the giant GI Joe sticker in the middle. I think someone mentioned as well. They were like, "Why is there a giant GI Joe sticker in the middle of the windscreen?"
In preparation for this topic, did you guys
I love
watch
this
our
story.
own review by any chance?
No, I did not do that. I wanted to be fresh and have my own opinions on
good
this thing
boy.
instead of my own
Well,
opinions.
I have to put my hand up and say that, yeah, I watched GI Joburg's review of the Locust, of course. And yes, we do
It's very nice of
definitely
you.
make light of the fact that like GI Joe loves their branding, even more so than they love visibility, because certain angles you are absolutely barred from view by the damn GI Joe sticker right across the canopy.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
how
guess
you
that
die.
is meant to be a canopy spa, anyway. It's just a very broad one, which is, it's baffling to have something so vision impairing. Like, GI Joe vehicles typically have this uninterrupted, beautiful, clean canopy for a lot of their vehicles.
No, absolutely gorgeous.
But in
yeah,
something this tiny, they decide to put the damn thing there, right there.
But I suppose, like, where else would you put it? I mean, maybe another place would be to put it at the bottom. But I mean, you really have the molding, kind of like breaking up the upper canopy.
There's this delightful term in aviation called monocoque.
Okay.
Which basically means just single shell, which means the glass is blown to not have any kind of framework in it.
It's a monocoque.
Yeah,
it's a monocoque. Monocoque canopy. French,
blown once.
Thank you. Yeah, blow that cock once. Anyway, so yeah, that would be my answer. Just make it an uninterrupted piece of glass, just like an F-16 has. This beautiful, just. Okay, it's got a
Been saved by GI Joe. Like and follow us on Instagram.
Favorite feature though, in keeping with the glass, I always love it when a helicopter has that kind of, is it dorsal, the underside?
Yeah, dorsal.
That
dorsal
is
see-through.
So nice. The glass down there, it harks back to the Tomahawk. It's just a mark of quality. Like you, as a helicopter pilot, you sometimes need to absolutely see below your feet.
Yeah.
It would be nice if just like the Tomahawk, it had yaw pedals. But, I mean, this is a basic toy. You can't expect that level of detail. Even so, it's got terrific detail. The engine sculpt is lovely. And the fact that it's kind of exposed, even more so. Like, this thing is like a kit helicopter. It's absolutely bare bones in places. Stealth
That's my
and
favorite feature.
Survivability be damned. Yeah.
Is the
Absolutely
compact.
I love the visible engine. As a kid, I used to pore over that for quite a while. I love the tail rotor system, like the way that it all meshes. I thought that was quite fascinating as a kid, and I still love that today. And like, I mean, there's many favorite features. This is actually a vehicle that I have a lot of love for, and I just generally love the aesthetic. I think it is such a good design visually.
Yeah.
Just love it. It's like Ed 209's head with the propeller, or Mr. Haley just for grown-ups. It's just so great.
Any criticisms, Paul? Let's step off the praise train for a sec.
The only criticism I have for it is that, like, the tab underneath it, I don't know, just something about it kind of used to sort of bug me. Like, it doesn't feel super comfortable to always open. Like, you're always scared you're going to break the tab. So it's a feature that's fun, but I didn't use it a lot as a kid. And often when we were playing with this toy, I know when it was still David's, we used to kind of preload it. So we would like open the tab and don't let the bombs come out, and then kind of hold it up with a finger so that if we were going to use it, we didn't want us to like excitedly pull on it because we were always worried it was going to break. Honestly, I can't think of anything really negative about the toy. For me, it's a really great all-round fun toy. I have to actually take time to look for faults with it, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
I love negging, but I'll let Rob have a first swipe then.
Well, I think in general, I think it's quite fun. I can't think of any like weird things that are strange. I mean, obviously, like when you do look at it, you do kind of. I think we did mention you do imagine that there is more to this at the back, and would make it more complete. But I think it's nice as it is compact. I like that this part of the back moves. I think Mark Schneider earlier asked, does the stabilizer of the back move? Yes, it does. So you can still sort of like do stuff with it, and also it does spin as well. So it does a little bit of a spinny thing going on here, which is kind of cool.
So people who are more aviation minded, what would be the feature of tilting that? Does it allow you to be even more maneuverable, or is it simply just to trim the helicopter for different power settings? Because
I don't know, it can go pretty extreme. I mean, it's like maybe that's like the jet engine, the extra engine that kind of helps it go faster. I know a lot about aircraft.
Rob's an expert.
But yeah, I don't have any negatives yet. I think so far it's
Because
all
I
very
love the
glowing.
bottom canopy so much, I hate it making contact with the ground. And unfortunately, the Locust suffers from a center of gravity issue in that
Yeah.
way too much weight in the front.
Yeah, it
it's always
does want to
gonna.
move forward a lot.
Thank
Roddy
you,
shares
Ronnie.
that sentiment.
Very,
Yeah.
very timeous comment. And all of that would have been alleviated by either having a tail boom, which would have balanced it, or setting the skids maybe a little bit higher up. Form BX257, I think, talks about that in his review. But, you know, in a real world setting, this engine would weigh a lot more than the plastic represents. So that would, the center of gravity would be probably close to where the rotor hub is. So it would never fall forward. Well, unless you ditched it. But yeah, in the plastic, it just doesn't have the weight back there to keep it tilted back enough. And that's, I think, my most, I suppose, technical criticism. Apart from that, it's hell of a fun. I will always take the Tomahawk over everything else, but for one-handed action, you could do far worse than the Locust.
One in action with something that doesn't have a monocoque.
I love
Steven's
the fact that it does. I mean, this is absolutely a GI Joe design. It could never really be recast as Cobra because it's got crew survivability in mind. By giving your character an enclosed cockpit, it's not like the Fang.
Yeah.
It's not like a battlecopter. It is a helicopter that has some safety feature to it, which makes it a GI Joe vehicle in my mind.
It's also
forever.
got a really. It's also got a real. Let me use the words here properly. It's got quite a heroic design sensibility to it as well. I feel like if you put Cobra colors on it, it would look. I'm sure there's a great idiom for this, but it would just look like a cow trying to be a sheep or something. Like
tell it to Mark.
It's.
But yes, it does look good in white with Cobra symbols on it. But absolutely, Paul, I see what you mean. Like the shape of it, it's a goodie. It's definitely a goodie.
Well, as
it
Darren says,
it also looks like it fits an Avatar.
Yes,
it can be an Avatar. Wow, that's.
I mean, if you replace the central blade with like
not Airbender,
Avatar.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking,
Avatar.
That's what I was thinking of.
What are they? Directional fans that those helicopters have? Absolutely.
Those could definitely go in there.
Yeah.
So, if Tomahawk is number one, Toy Bounty Hunter asks, what's second, the Locust or the Dragonfly?
Fang 2.
Oh, well,
I'm kidding.
Okay,
I'm kidding. But Paul, do you want to answer the question?
For me, it's Locust. I've got more experience, I've got more experience with it, more nostalgia with it. I've had lots of adventures with this vehicle, just sitting in the lounge in the corner there while my parents were watching TV, having fun with
it.
It
doesn't come in Tiger Force flavor, dude.
It doesn't come in Tiger Force flavor, but
that's not good.
I think nostalgia is gonna take it for me on this one. Like that's my number one. Then I'm gonna say my Tiger Rat because the Tiger Rat's just amazing. I mean Tiger Rat, Tiger Fly, is amazing. And then after that, it's the like helicopter. I don't want to think too hard, but also Fang 2. I've had so many great memories with. Got my Fang 2 here actually.
Ouchie.
I love the Fang, but I've just got more love for the Fang 2. The Fang, when I was a kid, the Fang was too much of a helicopter for me to care. The Fang 2 was like this finagled death machine from the future, which I just appreciated playing with more than a Fang 1. It's only a little bit later that I started looking at the Fang 1 going, that's actually really amazingly made for an old toy. And that was me when I was like 12. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys?
Dragonfly.
Considering I own a Locust,
sorry, it's just...
I'm going to have to say the Locust.
He's compelled. I have the Dragonfly in various flavors. I have the Locust version of the Dragonfly, which, if you're scratching your heads, is the version from the early 2000s, the Real American Hero collection, where they recast it in tan. I didn't like the tan, so I painted it grey, and Paul fixed my shitty paint job. Because I wanted a Locust that was inspired, a Dragonfly that was inspired by the Marines Super Cobra, and that is always in that sort of light grey color. It looks great on a flag, let me tell you, in the grey. So yeah, I mean, the Locust is fine, but the Dragonfly is just so much more. They're not in the same class, so it's perhaps an unfair comparison to draw. But seems like my co-hosts don't mind it at all. They put it ahead of the Dragonfly.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure if I owned a Dragonfly, it would be more difficult. I think, I think this serves as more. This is more fun to play with against the type of the majority of the helicopters that the Cobra do have. Fang 2, more than say fighting the Dragonfly up against I want to say the Night Raven, or I want to say the Mumbo, but I know it's not just the Mumbo.
I'm going to get controversial and say that I even like the Skystorm X-wing attack helicopter more than this. Whoa. More than this, just because that has a cool nostalgia memory for me, and I really enjoyed just the wacky science aspect of a stopped rotor helicopter jet. It's very Mask. Giving it a sort of a dual function, and I had a lot of fun. Like, I left the Dragonfly in the dust, baby, with my Skystorm.
Yeah. Mark chips in with no Retaliator. Mark, we have little to no experience with the Retaliator. I think
unfortunately
I've held one once, which was at Greg's place. That was the closest I got to a Retaliator, really. I think maybe I've got it. Maybe I've had. I don't know. I can't think of
I'm old and ugly enough to know that I'm not going to like it. I like what I like, and I do not like the Retaliator. I liked it when I first encountered it on the paperwork, when I was looking at the GI Joe catalog, and I was like, whoa, that thing looks amazing. Probably seats 2 guys in there. It's got a cool pilot. I bet it's got great details.
Comes from the future.
I love the nose gun. I love the missiles. It looks very realistic. But it's photographed from a very flattering angle in the catalog that I was looking at. And I think it does not look good from many angles. It has a very toyetic feature which interrupts its grasp of realism. The more I learn about the Retaliator, the less I like it. So if it happens to find its way into my hands and I do a 180... Mark, you will be the first to know. I promise you. I will eat my hat.
Well, second, we'll be the first to know.
He chimes in that it's a beautiful toy, and I take your word for it. But on paper, and given how much I scrutinize these things, I know, at least here in 2024, early March, that I don't like it. Subject to change.
I also think it's the same designer as the Locust within Hasbro. Yeah. Okay. I think there's certain vehicles like you could.
You're basing this on just a gut feeling?
It's design language. It's I mean, listen, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like the Retaliator, the Locust, they're definitely like family members. Like they come from the same creative source. Obviously there's input and whatever, but it's just there's a style to those vehicles that doesn't really exist with some of the other vehicles. I feel it's kind of very.
And they're brown,
and they got that cool brown gunmetal-y color going for them. They're so good. There's another one. I'm just struggling to think of it now, but there's another vehicle that also seems to fit in that family. It's almost like, and this is of course at no disrespect to any GI Joe toy designer, because I love you guys all. I'm even more impressed with some of you now that I've seen that the Road Toad is actually not a piece of shit. But yeah, you heard it here, folks. But I kind of feel like Hasbro might have actually like dipped out of their usual pool and maybe like gotten a guy that designs cars or that is more of an industrial designer in the field of like vehicles or aviation or something, and maybe hired him
Guy
on
Cassidy, for like an automotive guy. I think so.
Could have been, but that's just the feeling I get from something like the Locust. I just get this like, wow, this vehicle just has a design sense to it that is not from a toy first thinking. It's from a cool first thinking, and then turned into a cool toy. Which is great that it worked here. In the Retaliator's case, I think maybe it fails a bit as a toy, but then again, Mark has a different opinion on that. But yeah, it's just something I wanted to mention. There's just a sophistication to the Locust's design. That is quite, it's just there. It's futuristic. It's got a good proportion to it. I can go on. I know it's because I love the vehicle, but I can go on.
We tend to rate these things at the end of our vehicle focus episodes. Are we going to rate this one? I think we've given basically perfect scores to each and every one of the other vehicles, but each of them have been more notorious vehicles. I think more famous. The Locust is a bit of a dark horse. So
which is so GI Joburg style as well. You know,
it guts to, man. The 90s stuff has its place, and it's still good.
Locust, for me, I'm sure everybody's going to see this coming. They're all going, Paul's going to give it a 5. You're right. Paul's giving it a 5.
Right.
It ticks all the boxes for me, so.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that. I think it's, I mean, having only had it for a bit, I mean, I can see the potential, and I can see how much fun we really could have had with this growing up. Yeah, I'm probably going to stick with that. I think 5 out of 5. Let's just keep going. Let's just give everything 5s. Hey,
welcome to GI
Joburg, Stephen,
Rob.
with his 4.5 out of 5.
Well, taken in its own class, taken in its own class as the sort of reconnaissance helicopter. Yeah, it's got the Skyhawk beat in many respects. A sort of a build quality. It's definitely better than the Skyhawk. What else is it competing with? Battlecopters. So, in its own class, it's a 5-star vehicle. But if you were to expand a little bit and say, like, you've got to reserve those high ranks for things like the Tomahawk and the Dragonfly, this is a distant third to those helicopters. So, I'm going to be a little bit gun-shy and give it a 4. But those are my reasons. You got to save your high marks for, like, things that are just absolute crowd pleaser, slam dunk,
ever in the history of the world,
home run,
good. Oh my goodness,
hat trick,
whoa,
whatever sporting terms you want to throw in there.
You know,
but
it's got bombs that make sense.
Apparently, the Proteus stuck. According to Ronnie Jigshot.
According to every South African as well.
I mean, who the hell watches cricket? Ooh, I watch cricket to fall asleep.
Last year, I actually had the fever dream that we might have won 2 World Cups in a year. Wouldn't that have been an absolute Cinderella story?
That would have been absolutely
Why do I feel we did? Is that a Mandela effect thing?
Paul, you were swept up in that fervor, that national fervor of like everyone like, now we have to learn the fucking game of cricket too? Like having just learned the game of rugby because of all the rugby shit. No. We crashed out, unfortunately. We are the world's greatest cricket chokers, but whatever.
Unfortunate.
Okay.
To close us out, because we are live, throw up your ratings, guys. And while you do that, I think just prior to this live stream, Podcast from the Pit went live.
Whoa.
And they were talking with Mate Mylar. Amazing.
Wow.
Action figure photographer. I don't know if that actually happened. I was fast asleep. But if you do like GI Joe photography, that is essential viewing at this point.
And super awesome guy as well. Yeah, I'm sure he answered a lot of great questions.
Yeah, definitely go find it.
Easy.
And
also,
coming up next, Rob, what are you about to say?
Yes, I was about to say we were alerted to the fact that Zazel's Clubhouse is actually currently live while we're currently recording this. And he's announcing Space Commander's return. Apparently, Space Commander has joined him again, and they're chatting right now. I think what we should do is I'm going to share
put a link in the description.
In the description,
yeah.
well, in the chat. So everyone, when this live stream is finished, please, if you have, go and see them. Say we sent you over to them.
Yeah.
And
GI Joburg sent you.
We'll join you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we can't raid. This isn't like Twitch, so we can't go and raid here.
Well, Paul, you say that, but there is actually a feature for that. But I was trying to figure it out while we were streaming. But apparently, I'm a dum-dum and I don't know how to do it.
Wow, really? There's raiding in YouTube?
Yes,
Jeez.
there is. Apparently
There
there is.
is.
But
I've
anyway,
clearly
this is
missed
all
that
technical.
email.
This is all
Enough
technical
rating. Let's talk rating. We got them
Ooh.
rolling in. Toy Bounty Hunter, 5 out of 5.
Yeah, Mark
One of the
Verhoeven,
best 90s vehicles.
5 out of 5 for him
Moonlight.
too.
I imagine the internet reacting to less than 5 for any of those crowd favorites. Well, you'd be surprised. Darren's given it a 5.
Yeah,
Booyah J
The
gives it
Booyah J
5 out of 10.
And a sorry.
So that's
Wow.
No, you
Well,
can
it's a
absolutely have
more
that opinion.
realistic. Definitely, go for it. I mean, you saw Steven
You don't have to
broke
sorry.
with tradition and gave it a 4 out of 5. He was very apologetic.
Sad Monkey is with me, just shy of
There
that
you go.
perfect score. Yeah. What have we got? We got anybody else rating? Ronnie. The Locust, a 5 out of 5
5 out
vehicle
of
for
5.
me.
Hell
Yeah, Ronnie.
Had his father buy it for him for less than 10 Aussie dollars back in the day at Big
That
W.
is insane.
Nice, brother.
Well, before
nice.
we stop talking about it, I saw someone mention earlier. Apparently, I mean, the skids are quite difficult to find complete with this thing, which I imagine is probably because they are detachable. Like they come off like super easily. Which kind of makes it look like a sub. Someone also mentioned playing with it like a sub earlier, which I think totally makes sense. Was there anything else, Stephen, that you struggled to find in completing these 3 locusts, or were they quite easy to find complete?
I found yours in a lot with a persuader and a septic tank on Facebook Marketplace, and this is going to make Ronnie weep, for 15 Australian dollars.
Oh my god, that's like 3
Yeah.
big whoa.
It cost
Whoops.
more to get the parts
buy
to
that
complete
for
the
$1.
persuader and the locust. So it didn't have any of its bombs, but fortunately I found that here in Australia. The
Oh, there you
persuader
go.
parts took a little bit longer. Andrew, Mr. MCDJ ACDC, would know about that. I think I got my last persuader missile from him. But yes, I mean, like I say, like deals are out there, but then completing shells, you quickly learn, like, it doesn't necessarily wind up cheaper, but to find the main helicopter for a steal, love that. Love that.
Well,
The missiles are the major issue. The rotors sometimes are cracked and broken. That's always a shame, because that's, once that's cooked,
that's the main feature. I mean,
it's very difficult to do an effective repair that retains its, spinniness. Doesn't spin
for
as nice as
Ben,
a fang. That's
Spinny
what,
Winnie.
this vehicle flew completely under his radar in the UK.
he
notice
does
it.
have limited stealth capabilities.
And WJ expands on his, and he continues to be very apologetic. But he doesn't think it can take a punch, and it's probably short range. Its best job was being a spotter for the general's artillery, which, I mean,
Perfect.
makes perfect sense why it came with it. So it's a good ancillary vehicle for a lot of people, I guess, rather than, your main awesome flying vehicle.
I think it's such a hero in my life. Yeah.
It's good fun.
Talking about
well.
heroes.
I think it even came with me to a Spur, bro. Or a Mike's
Of
Kitchen.
course.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you know who else you can find in Mike's Kitchen? These amazing
Mike.
people. Yeah, they're cooking. They're cooking for us, and they're making beautiful food that nourishes us and keeps us going, and keeps the lights on apparently as well, and pays for subscriptions. And there they are. They're the
these
cooks at
people,
Mike's
thank you.
Kitchen.
The
Our
cooks.
real heroes.
Also, do
I
you love?
picked up what
Do you guys
Rob
love
was
Real
the
international
Scottish-
heroes.
Do you guys love the Scottish Laird?
Very
we have
nice.
The Scottish Laird's Army. That's right. The steel explosives. Anyway,
Any
go and
excuse
check
to
out the
show off
Scottish.
his torso.
Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Paul
We-
is very
we
proud.
got
of it.
Scottish.
We
We
got,
got
merch.
merch. The Scottish Laird's Army is available with other merch on our Teespring. So if you guys
Hell
are
yeah.
dying to get a GI Joburg t-shirt,
Inspirational.
that's where you get it from.
All right,
Ooh.
let's get out of here and let the good
Let's
people
get out of
go
here.
to whatever stream they want to watch
Absolutely.
next.
Go
Go
there
where you
for
want to
a
go.
dollar.
One
Maybe
more
just go outside and take a walk in the garden. We thank our guys who joined us live. It was a wonderful bumper episode.
Thank you,
Great way to
everybody.
start off the week for yours truly. Hope
good way
everyone
to
had a
start off the
swell
month.
weekend. Yeah. We will be back next week, perhaps, to talk about Duke number 3. That's
Ooh.
fresh off the presses. But either way, it's going to be fun. I think we'll do live again, to put us back on track, gents. If
Yes,
that's all right with
I
you.
think this is a good
Mhm.
idea. I like
Yeah.
that.
And then we'll go back
I like
to
tracks.
we'll go back to putting these
Uh,
vehicles
It's a cool
spotlights
character.
in
Tracks,
the
my
can.
favorite. Got a
And I
great
think
in the
people
can.
love like getting involved in the comics chat with us. So yeah.
Oh, for sure. Stay on, the cutting edge of Joe information.
This sci-fi is so cool.
Ugh,
I'm
we
trying to
weren't
shoot
gonna
Rob
do new
Dirk.
shit in this episode, you asshole.
It's not a shit. I'm playing
It's
with
not
my
new
toy
shit. He's just
on
playing with his
camera.
toy.
Oh, let's get out
Hell
of
yeah.
here. Yo, Joe.
Berg.